Today, I'm going to compare two very sound real estate options, single families and student rentals. I've been in the game for over 6 years. I've built a multi-million-dollar portfolio, and I have a lot of experience managing both families and students. I'm going to break this down into 3 key areas, and I know the results will surprise you. So first, let's talk about cash flow. My first property that I bought was a 5-bedroom house, and I was deciding, should I rent to families or should I rent to students? When I was doing the market analysis and comparing the rent, I found that when I was renting to a single family, the most that I could get was $2,500. Now, when I changed my focus to students, I was able to get $600 per room. $3,000 in monthly rent. That's 20% increase in your real rate of return. That is huge money. I learned it didn't really matter what kind of house you were renting to a single family. There's always a cap of how much that single family can afford, and that is the market for single family rent. But when you rent to students, there is no cap because you're renting by the number of rooms that you have. So let's talk about how quickly you can accelerate that cash flow. The house that I had, the 5-bedroom house, if I rented it to a single family and followed all the rules and regulations and compared that to today's rent, well, the maximum I could get is $2,800. Compare that to what I'm actually getting today with student rentals, I'm at over $3,500 per month. And that's because students generally stay for shorter periods. And that gives you the opportunity to readjust to current market levels. And that is a key lesson that I learned. And again, a great way for you to accelerate that cash flow and the profits if that's what you're going for. Now let's talk about how safe is that cash flow. So when I was deciding between renting to single families or renting to students, I realized that if I rented my whole house to a single family, all of my rent was coming from one single source. And if that single family wasn't able to pay or they decided not to pay, then I would be in serious trouble. So compare that to renting to students. If one student stops paying, it's okay because you still have all the rent coming from the other rooms. So the potential for your rent to go to zero is much less. Also, in general, students are backed by government loans or their parents. So that means they generally have the money that they need to pay the rent. So now let's talk about my favorite aspect, tenant management. I get asked all the time, how do you deal with all these issues and what's the difference between students and families? I'll tell you, there is no difference. Things are going to happen. Things are going to break down. That's the nature of the business. It all depends on how you respond and how you respond internally. I've learned to put systems in place so I can manage the volume of phone calls and the issues, and I always keep cool, I keep calm, and I put things into perspective. That is absolutely key when you're dealing with tenants. So now you know the difference between single families and students. The next step is to analyze financially if you're making the right decision. Click this video to find out how you can analyze any real estate property.